There's been a lot of movement behind the scenes and on the pitch when it comes to Rangers, and one of the stories starting to gather real attention is the situation around the goalkeeping position and what the club might be planning for the future. Over the past while, the discussion has not just been about results or tactics, but about long-term planning, recruitment strategy, and how the squad will evolve over the next few seasons. One position that always brings debate among supporters is the goalkeeper role, because it is such a crucial part of how a team builds from the back and controls matches. Rangers have relied heavily on experience in recent seasons, but there is now a growing feeling that the club may be looking toward youth, development, and long-term stability rather than short-term solutions. The name that has been circulating recently is that of a young goalkeeper currently playing in England, a player who is still very early in his career but already gaining attention for his style of play and his potential. At just 20 years of age, he is already playing senior football and has international experience, which is not something you see very often for a goalkeeper so young. What makes him particularly interesting is not just his shot-stopping ability, but the way he plays with the ball at his feet. Modern football demands that goalkeepers are not just there to save shots, but also to start attacks, control possession, and remain calm under pressure when teams press high up the pitch. If Rangers are indeed looking at this kind of goalkeeper, it would suggest a shift in how the team wants to play in the coming years. A goalkeeper who is comfortable passing the ball, switching play, and building from the back changes the entire dynamic of a team. It allows defenders to spread wider, midfielders to drop and receive the ball, and the whole team to move forward in a more controlled and structured way. Over the past season, there have been moments where Rangers have struggled when pressed high, and having a goalkeeper who is confident in possession could make a massive difference in those situations. Of course, whenever you look at a young goalkeeper, the statistics do not always tell the full story, especially if he is playing in a struggling team. A goalkeeper can concede many goals and still be one of the best players on the pitch simply because of the number of shots he faces and the pressure he is under every match. Playing behind a weak defense is one of the hardest situations for any goalkeeper, let alone someone who is still developing and learning the professional game. That is why clubs often look beyond the raw numbers and instead focus on technique, decision-making, positioning, and composure. From what has been said about this young goalkeeper, his biggest strengths seem to be his composure, his passing range, and his confidence when playing out from the back. Those are qualities that fit very well with teams that want to dominate possession and control matches rather than simply react to the opposition. It also suggests that the recruitment team and coaching staff are not just looking at who can perform now, but who can develop into a top player over the next several years. Signing a young goalkeeper is often about the future rather than the present, about building a core of players who can grow together and improve season after season. At the same time, this does not necessarily mean that the current goalkeeper situation is about to change immediately, but it does show that the club is thinking ahead. Every successful club plans transitions before they are forced into them. Instead of waiting until a player leaves or declines, they bring in younger players early, allow them to learn, adapt, and eventually take over the role when the time is right. This kind of planning is often what separates clubs that remain successful over many years from those that go through constant cycles of rebuilding. Beyond the goalkeeping situation, there has also been a lot of discussion about changes happening at the executive level of the club. When you see people leaving important positions and new leadership stepping in, it usually means there is going to be a shift in direction, strategy, or structure. These kinds of changes do not always make headlines like new signings do, but they can be just as important for the long-term future of a club. The way a club is run off the pitch often determines what happens on the pitch, especially when it comes to finances, recruitment, and long-term planning. It feels very much like a period of restructuring, with new leadership wanting to bring in their own people, their own ideas, and their own way of working. This is something you see in many clubs when new executives or directors take control. They want people they trust, people who share their vision, and people who can help implement the changes they believe are necessary. It does not always mean that the people who leave did a bad job, but sometimes new leadership simply wants a fresh start and a new structure moving forward. As these changes continue to unfold behind the scenes, it becomes clear that this is not just a small adjustment period, but potentially a major shift in how the club is going to be run moving forward. When new leadership comes in, especially at executive level, They usually have a long-term plan rather than short-term fixes. That often includes restructuring departments, changing recruitment strategies, improving commercial performance, and making sure the football side and business side of the club are working more closely together. All of this might not be visible on the pitch immediately, but over time it can have a massive impact on how competitive the club becomes. Supporters often focus mainly on signings, results, and performances, which is completely understandable, but the structure above the manager and players is just as important. If the club is organized properly, if recruitment is smart, if contracts are handled well, and if revenue is increasing, then the team on the pitch usually improves as well. Stability at the top often leads to stability on the pitch, and that is something Rangers have been trying to build over the past few years. However, when results do not match expectations, changes often follow. And that seems to be what we are seeing now with several departures and new people stepping into important roles. It also suggests that there is a real determination to correct mistakes that may have been made in previous transfer windows or in previous planning cycles. Every club makes mistakes with signings, contracts, or long-term planning. But the important thing is how quickly those mistakes are recognized and corrected. If the leadership believes changes are needed, then making those changes early gives the club a better chance of being ready for the next season rather than reacting too late. The summer transfer window is always crucial, and it looks like the people in charge want everything in place before that period begins so decisions can be made quickly and efficiently. Another interesting aspect of the current situation is the structure on the football side, particularly regarding recruitment and player decisions. Instead of relying on a single sporting director, it looks like there will be a structure where multiple people are involved in recruitment decisions, including the manager and technical staff. This can work very well if everyone shares the same vision and style of play, because players are then signed to fit a system rather than just being good players individually. Modern football is very much about systems, identity, and style, and recruitment needs to match that identity or else squads become unbalanced very quickly. If the manager has a strong say in recruitment, it usually means the players coming in will fit the way the team wants to play. That can make a huge difference because there is nothing worse than a manager inheriting players that do not suit his system or style. When recruitment and coaching are aligned, teams tend to improve much faster because every new player strengthens the system rather than forcing the system to change. That might be one of the key things we see over the next transfer window, players being brought in who specifically fit the style the manager wants to implement. Looking ahead, it feels like this upcoming summer could be one of the most important periods for Rangers in recent years. Between potential new signings, possible departures, changes in leadership, and adjustments in recruitment strategy, there could be significant changes across the entire club. These kinds of periods can either push a club forward or set it back, depending on how well decisions are made. That is why the structure behind the scenes is so important right now, because the decisions made over the next few months could shape the squad and the club for several years. At the same time, the focus will still remain on improving the squad, increasing competition for places, and building a team capable of competing consistently at a high level domestically and in European competitions. Recruitment will be key, but so will development of younger players, smart contract management, and making sure the squad has the right balance of experience and youth. Successful teams are rarely built in a single transfer window, but strong foundations can be put in place in one summer if the planning is correct and the right players are targeted. All of these changes, both on and off the pitch, suggest that the club is entering a very important transition period. There is a sense that the people in charge want to modernize certain aspects of the club, improve efficiency, and build something more sustainable for the future rather than relying on short-term solutions. Supporters will always judge what happens by results on the pitch, but many of the most important decisions are being made in offices and meeting rooms long before the ball is kicked on match day. What makes this period even more interesting is the feeling that the club is not just reacting to what is happening now, but trying to build something that will last for many years. In football, short-term thinking can sometimes bring quick results, but long-term planning is what creates strong teams that compete season after season. That means identifying young players before they become too expensive, developing talent within the club, and making sure the squad is refreshed at the right time instead of waiting until a rebuild becomes unavoidable. It feels like the people in charge are trying to avoid that situation and instead slowly reshape the squad piece by piece. When you look at successful teams, they rarely change everything at once. Instead, they replace 2 or 3 players each season, gradually improving the overall level of the squad. That way, the team remains competitive while still evolving. If Rangers are planning something similar, then this upcoming transfer window might be just the beginning rather than a complete overhaul. Supporters always want to see big signings and big changes straight away, but sometimes the smartest approach is a steady rebuild where each new player fits a clear system and long-term plan. Another important factor will be the balance between experienced players and younger talent. You cannot build a team only with young players because you need leadership, experience, and players who understand pressure situations. At the same time, you cannot rely only on experienced players because eventually the team becomes slower, less dynamic, and needs rebuilding all at once. The best squads always have a mix, young players pushing for places, experienced players guiding them, and players in their prime delivering consistent performances every week. Finding that balance will be one of the most important tasks for the recruitment team. There is also the question of playing style and identity, something that every strong club needs. Supporters want to see a team that plays with intensity, confidence, and a clear idea of what they are trying to do on the pitch. Whether that is high pressing, possession football, quick counter-attacking, or a mix of different approaches, the key thing is consistency and identity. When a team has a clear identity, recruitment becomes easier because you know exactly what type of player you need for each position rather than just signing the biggest name available. Consistency has probably been one of the biggest challenges in recent seasons, not just in terms of results, but also performances. There have been games where the team looked very strong and organized, and others where things just did not click at all. The next step for the club is not just winning matches, but controlling matches, looking confident, and making it difficult for opponents every single week. The best teams are not just the ones who win occasionally in spectacular fashion, but the ones who perform at a high level consistently across an entire season. Another area that will likely be looked at is squad depth. Modern football seasons are long and demanding, especially when you are competing in domestic competitions and European competitions at the same time. Injuries, suspensions, and fatigue are inevitable. So having strong options on the bench is just as important as having a strong starting 11. Teams that compete for titles usually have 2 players for every position who can perform at a similar level, and that is something every ambitious club tries to build over time. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. Shockwaves are rippling through Ibrox and far beyond as whispers grow louder that Danny RÖHL could be on the brink of a dramatic exit from Rangers. What began as quiet dressing room murmurs has now spilled into the terraces, with supporters voicing disbelief at the notion that the man tasked with steadying the club's fortunes may be preparing to walk away. Sources close to the situation suggest tensions have been simmering behind the scenes for weeks. While nothing has been officially confirmed, there is a growing sense that RÖHL's relationship with key figures at the club has frayed. Some insiders claim disagreements over long-term strategy and squad direction have created an atmosphere that is, at best, uneasy. Others hint that the pressure of expectation, ever present in Glasgow, has begun to weigh heavily. Fans, meanwhile, are struggling to make sense of it all. RÖHL arrived with a reputation for tactical sharpness and modern thinking, and there were glimpses of promise that hinted at a brighter chapter. Yet football, as ever, is a volatile business, and even the most carefully laid plans can unravel with startling speed. There is also speculation that interest from elsewhere may be turning the manager's head. Clubs across Europe are said to be monitoring the situation closely, ready to make their move should the door open. Whether this is genuine interest or merely agent-driven noise remains unclear, but it has only added fuel to the fire. For now, Rangers find themselves in a state of limbo. The board has remained tight-lipped, offering no clarity as rumors swirl. Supporters are left to debate, dissect, and dread what might come next. Should RÖHL indeed depart, it would mark yet another abrupt twist in a season already brimming with uncertainty. Until an official word emerges, the story remains one of speculation. But in Glasgow, where football is felt as much as it is followed, even a whisper can sound like thunder. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.